Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I hope all of you and yours are doing well and being safe. So I'd like to welcome you to the Katie Returns to Work Safely webinar series every Tuesday at 2 o'clock Central. We have a new and different speaker to share with the Tri-County community on how to return to work safely and successfully. Before we turn the program over to the most exciting speaker you're ever going to see, this is a man who's going to say, you know, buckle up because we're on for an e-ride. But the first thing I'd like to do is to unveil one of the newest initiatives of Katie Returns to Work Safely. All of us have seen, unfortunately, the increases that the Tri-County area are seeing relative to COVID infection. And so what we'd like to do, and we're unveiling a new campaign, Help Us Help You, Wear Your Mask. We have solicited the assistance and cooperation of some local luminaries and others who will be giving you their message throughout social media over the next week or so. Help us help you wear your mask. So we hope you'll all take that into consideration. And if you have any questions or are looking for material, here is the website, and I'll pop this up at the end of this webinar. So just as a reminder, the return to work is intended to help all in the Tri-County area, irrespective of where you live or where you work. And today I am so excited to introduce our speaker today. Jack Warkenthien is a sales expert, and he is going to be giving us lots of good information on sales strategies, and he wants your questions. So he said, don't hold back, pop them into the Q&A, raise your hand, or otherwise interrupt, because he wants to take the questions as they come. His material will be on the landing page, Katie Returns to Work, probably within the next day after Jack is finished. So Jack, thank you so very much for not only being with us today, but for all the good things that you do in the Katy area. And on behalf of the task force, thank you for joining, and we really look forward to your message today.
Well, Jeanette, I'm delighted to join your team, and especially as we're trying to help professionals in the Tri-County area to help everybody return to work safely. The work you're doing is amazing, and I give you nothing but credit as you help the businesses in our area, you know, really open their doors again. As we start, I want to publicly thank Don McCoy, our president of the Fulshire Katy Area Chamber of Commerce, because he's the one that inspired me to put together this outline, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We did this in June 10th. It was widely helpful, and so we decided to use the same outline today. Of course, I had 10 minutes on a very busy agenda to do it last time. I know we have a little more time today, so thank you for Don for the put me in coach, the whole thing, and that was very beneficial. The area today will be sales strategies, and I know that's a very broad topic, but I have to tell you, Jeanette, that everyone who's on this Zoom call right now, they are all part of the world's oldest profession. Did you know that, Jeanette? Did you know
I did not.
Sales is the world's oldest profession? Did you know that?
That is news to me.
I'm telling you, I talk about this every time I'm out in public, and when people realize that they're part of the world's oldest profession, think about it. Who was the first salesperson in recorded history? Come on, Jeanette. Who was the first in recorded history?
Well, it might have been Eve.
There you go. It's Eve. What was she pitching?
Her apple.
Apples. Did she get the sale?
Yeah. Well, sort of.
Well, of course she got the sale. And that is the world's first sale. And think about it, even after Eve made the sale. Think about Moses coming down Mount Sinai with the 10 suggestions. I mean, the 10 commandments. The world has always been moved by a compelling sales call. So I want to thank everybody for being here and join them in the world's oldest profession. Now, this is a sales conversation, as we talked about before, which means as they have questions, I'm happy to answer them. We tailor our comments based on the people who are asking. And so feel free. You're not going to help me lose my place. You're not going to have to worry about it. I'm a trained professional, and we're here to help your sales strategies as you open the doors once again and get accustomed to our new normal. So with that as a backdrop, I'd like to put my little presentation on the line here. And let's see, why don't we do this? Okay, I'm going to share this, and I'm going to do this.
All right, Jack, we're great.
Okay.
We see you.
So can everybody, now, it's probably better if I start with the first slide instead of the last slide. What do you think?
Well, it might help.
All right, and here's what we're going to do today. What we're going to do is, I'm calling it 10 Jack Snacks for Sales Success. And we're going to kind of unroll these one at a time, counting down David Letterman style. How does that sound?
We're all ears, Jack. We're all ears.
What we're going to do then is, let's start with number 10. Return all phone calls. I don't know about you, but has anyone experienced a lack of return phone calls, particularly when you're trying to get a service provider, let's say a roofer or a plumber or an air conditioner guy? Sometimes it is so hard to get somebody to return your phone call. Have you noticed that? And what that tells me is there's a lack of hunger by the people that don't return phone calls. So the good news is, anytime you get a phone call, make an effort to return these in 24 hours or less. Now, here's the good news for you. More people are answering their phone calls. More people are answering their own phone, which means even Mr. or Mrs. Decision Maker, they could surprise you by answering their own telephone. What do you think about that? Whereas in the past, we're accustomed to going through 3 or 4 screeners, the reception area. The good news is, be careful. You may get Mrs. or Mr. Decision Maker to answer their own phone call. So don't be like those chuck on a truck technicians, those service providers that may or may not call you back. Be the company that is known for fast response. Lack of return calls equal lack of hunger. And today, I'm going to conclude this slide with one of my favorite Jack Snacks. And by the way, Jeanette, for those of you who have just eaten lunch, my snacks don't have any carbohydrates, calories, or cholesterol. They're snacks for the mind. Are you okay with that?
Hey, best kind.
So it's not the big that eat the small. It's now the fast that eat the slow. If you want to be unique and stand out in your respective industry, be the company that's known for the responsiveness. What do you think? The ones that return calls the quickest, the ones that turn around a question, the ones that turn around a proposal. Be that company. And the great news about this is, us small, medium-sized businesses, we can respond on a dime. It's not like turning around that big ship in the water like some of these bigger companies. So understand, part of your unique value proposition might be that you are a responsive company. So return calls, turn things around, and know that you have a competitive advantage because it's the fast that eat the slow. Now, number 9 on our hit parade, discipline your thinking. It is so hard now to remain positive because of every news feed, whether you get the news on your phone, on the television. I'm one of the old school people that look at my my phone, but I also get the Houston Chronicle delivered to my door every morning. I know I'm old school, and it's very difficult to find positive things. In fact, it was only last week where my Houston Chronicle finally decided to replace the coronavirus section in the paper with a sports section. We actually have sports to talk about again. That's more positive than a 2-page spread on our latest scoreboard on coronavirus. So we have to work a little more difficult to find positive things to remain positive about. So don't test negative for your positivity. Test positive for your positivity, because that will help you focus and discipline your thinking. Never lose your ability to be objective and adapt to change. We have to sometimes adapt on the fly. Things are changing so much around us that we have to be ready. For instance, we all know the companies that switched from brewing beer to making hand sanitizer. Tito's, my favorite vodka beverage from Austin, he shut down the line and started making hand sanitizers. How many of the manufacturers, like the Fords and some of the medical manufacturers, stop the assembly line and start making PPC and the whatever those things, monitors, that they were hooked up to, and forgot, we ran out of them. But anyway, don't lose your ability to be objective and adapt to change. Be ready to correct your course. If there is a way, and keep this in mind, your best sales strategy is asking yourself every day, how else can I serve my customers? What else can I do to serve my customers? Be objective, be ready to course correct, and while you're at it, watch your market. Your market may be changing around you. Your market may be dynamic, it may be fluid, but above all, it may be different. So look and make sure at this time you increase your messaging and not decrease it. Think about it, Jeanette. People in times like this are new normal. Sometimes they hold back on their advertising, they reduce their marketing budget, and they make changes to the negative. They're not as active on social media. Well, my good friend Phil Morabito from Pierpont reminds us that in public relations, advertising, as your competitors are pulling in the reins and spending less money, every dollar you invest in your messaging will give you more than a 3-to-1 return on your investment before these new normal times or unprecedented times. Said another way, I can now get $15 worth of value by advertising now and investing $5 because there is less clutter out there. There is less people messaging. So go ahead and increase your messaging. Make sure you're telling stories. Make sure you're keeping your blog current and your website current. Let's have some testimonials, but get out there with LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever your pleasure is. Make sure you're out there with your messaging and continue to do it at a higher rate. How are we doing so far? Yes, sir.
Real well. We have a question.
Sure.
You urged us to be observant. What are we supposed to be looking for?
Ah, what you're supposed to be looking for are new needs that the market has identified. With this new normal, think about, just to go back to what you started our conversation with today, the fact that now masks are mandatory in certain areas. So look for opportunities to add some personality to masks. Maybe you get into that business. Think about now the ability for stores to deliver mixed drinks and cocktails. Think about how the market is changing, making concessions on one hand, but offering new items on the other. So keep your ear close to the ground and think about, first, in the context of your customers, what do they need that perhaps they can't find in the market today or find from you? And what do they want, so that you can find ways to deliver it, even if you're not in the manufacturing business or the distribution business. If you're in the service business, you may find a new service that your customers need that may not be part of your sweet spot, but you can find someone else who has it.
Thank you.
How are we doing?
Great. Absolutely.
Good. Let's go to number 8 then. And as we count down, we have to stay focused. And for salespeople especially, it's so easy for us to look at that 800-pound gorilla on our desk, the telephone, and say, why am I wasting my time? People don't want to talk about widgets today. They don't want to talk about buying something. They've got bigger fish to fry. And it is so easy for someone to talk their way out of doing what they should do to A, stay in touch with their customers, or B, continue to maintain a positive pipeline. You need to be working on that. The pipeline isn't going to magically appear after this thing ends or tapers down. You're going to have a funnel, and that funnel is going to have to be filled. So why not do it now? Yes, there are uncertain times, but understand this. The phone call you make today is probably the one that your competitors are not making. And again, you can stand out, because a lot of the people who are watching this webinar, maybe they're outstanding companies, but today it's more important for you to focus and stand out. What can I do? What can I offer that is uniquely mine? That's why it's called a unique value proposition. Now, going back to the question that we were asked earlier, this is what everyone should do every day, is read and research businesses. Some new that didn't exist yesterday. Let me give you an example. Zoom. I couldn't spell Zoom in March if you spotted me the Z and the O. I had never heard of it before, right? And all of a sudden, I'm getting invitations every week for 5, 10 Zoom webinars, Zoom conference calls. So here is a business that went from, in my opinion, I was not aware of it, to top of mind awareness. It's already become a verb in the same way that Google has become a verb. People Google your company and then they Zoom their webinar. How about that? Who saw that coming? And so research businesses that are thriving and ask yourself this question. Within the context of who we are and what I offer, what can we offer? How can we serve our customers? And I'm really enjoying the success stories that I'm reading about small companies that didn't exist, old companies that offered a new level of product or service. I'm inspired. That really helps me stay focused when I read about these other companies. along those same lines, since we're all part of the world's oldest profession, never stop selling. Understand the world of sales is different than it was not only pre-COVID, but even the way it was as recently as a year ago and even 2 years ago. If you have a sales process, you should be analyzing it right now and understand why people buy. Far more important than how to sell. Think about it. Do you like to be sold, Jeanette?
Not really.
Not really. Nobody likes to be sold.
No.
But especially people enjoy the buying process, especially if it's something that they want and not something that they need. But here's the point. My sales strategy for everyone on this webinar would be study the dynamics of why people buy. Men convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. You're not going to sell something to someone who doesn't want to buy it. Understand the dynamics. And here's the part that's very encouraging. A sale is based on emotion and justified with logic. It's not the other way around. A sale is an emotional experience justified with logic. So if you're out there selling technology or making intellectual proposals, you're not connecting emotionally with the people. That's how people buy. Think about how you buy products or services. It's first an emotion justified with logic. It's not the other way around. So why people buy, study it and understand the dynamics of how those decisions are made.
So,
Why
Jack,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. Someone asks, you say you can't sell the way you did before. Tell us more about that. People are interested to hear.
Sure. Can I recommend a book here for the people who are on this call?
I'm sure no one will object.
Well, this book opened my eyes. It's called The Challenger Sale. The Challenger Sale. It's by the Corporate Executive Board, CEB. In my opinion, that should be must reading for anyone in sales. Here's why. Until I read the book, I did not realize that more than 54% of the sale is made now before us as salespeople even understand who the buyers are. Because there's so much information out there available on the internet that people, by the time you find them or they find you, they've already come to the conclusion that they need this product and may or may not be from you. So you have to understand that they're much more educated than they were before because of the information available. The other thing you have to understand is it's no longer just one decision maker at these companies. Now you have, on average, according to the Challenger Sale, 5.4 people will touch each individual sale. Not just Mrs. or Mr. Decision Maker, but some other people on their team, including the one person. When I had a real job with IBM, I hated to call on procurement officers. Procurement officers, that was a bad word. Now, procurement departments are the rock stars. And so what you have to do today is build relationships on many different levels of an organization, whereas in the past, that wasn't as necessary as it is today. I hope that helps.
Thank you. I'm sure it does.
Now, the easiest place to open more and new additional business is connecting with your current clients. It's a lot easier to offer new products or services to them than to sell something to a first-time client. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
So we should be connecting with them and saying, hey, how you doing? Jeanette, how you doing? How's your company? How's your family? Is there anything else we can do for you? We haven't connected, haven't seen each other for a while. You know, it's amazing. Not only will you increase your sales opportunities, you're going to get some referrals out of this as well. And to reemphasize what I mentioned earlier, get out there to fill the pipeline, get out there on the social media, get out there with your emails, get out there with your blog, and continue to increase your messaging. How are we doing so far?
You've got an enwrapped audience, so charge ahead.
Okay, well now we have to be indispensable. By indispensable, I mean no longer in our company can we say things like, it's not my job. That's somebody else's department. I'm sorry, let me connect you to. We have to do a better job as the point person in sales to be the team player, to be the person that is the go-to person in the organization, because it's very frustrating to customers, to candidates, to clients when their salesperson is not a team player. As the captain of the team, and by the way, the owners of the businesses like us, we're the captains of the team. The executives are captains of the team. We need to be team players. And so even when our customer doesn't want to buy something, be indispensable. Let them come to you and call you the go-to person. You know, Jack, I know this is not your department, but we always know that you'll find the answer, you'll solve the problem, and you'll get back with me. And that's what will make you indispensable.
So, Jack,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
one of the things that to be indispensable, you really have to know your customers pretty well, don't you?
Yeah, you not only have to know them, but you have to be, and I know it's over cliche, you have to be a trusted advisor. If they look at you, if the only time they hear from you is when you're trying to separate them from their money, if that's the only time they hear from you, you're going to be just known as a peddler. You're always schlepping a product or a service. And you know, that gives us salespeople a bad name, because at the end of the day, the old cliche, you know how to tell when a salesperson is lying?
No.
Their lips are moving. You don't want to be that person.
No.
In fact, for clients that we do consulting with, I suggest to them, replace the business card title from sales representative to buyer's consultant. You know, Jeanette, as we get to know each other, I'm not trying to sell you anything. My job as the captain of the sales team is to facilitate your buying process by giving you as much information as you need to make an informed decision. So understand, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to make you as informed as you can be as a buyer. Now, doesn't that make you stand out from some of the other people that potentially are just calling their customers when they want to sell something?
Certainly feels like you'll be able to help solve my problem. And
Yeah,
if you do it on the first call, that much better.
Exactly. And I can't iterate this enough. The indispensable people are the ones that are increasing their prospecting. In fact, many of our clients, I challenge them to put something together I call a Century Club. That's CENTURY. A Century Club is 100 candidates. They used to be called prospects. I like to call them candidates. The word is more descriptive. I challenge each salesperson to put together 100 candidates and use that in your CRM, and make sure you're reaching out to them and touching them on a regular basis. 100 at a time. It's easy to get your arms around. And you can touch them with information, education, entertainment, recognition, but find a way to touch the people who aren't yet customers. And then finally, give first and get later. Giver's gain. Oh, a story. When we first started our company, I was in San Antonio, and in San Antonio, there were three major chambers of commerce. There was the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the one I was active in, which was the North San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. Well, at the same time I was joining the chamber, my partner and I started in 1995 what is now known as Next Step Solutions. But I have to tell you, as we started in business in 1995, October 1st, I'll never forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Diamond and I were in our kitchen, and we each put $5,000 on our kitchen table. We said a prayer and said, okay, now it's showtime. Both of us had left very lucrative jobs, but now all of a sudden we each have young families of three kids each, and we're on our own, right? I frankly got a little panicked, and I got out there in the networking world, and all of a sudden, you know how everybody has self-talk. Everybody talk, even if they say they don't, everybody talks to themselves. My 4 words of self-talk when I started were, who can help me? And that was the signal I was sending to the universe. Who can help me? Who can help me? Who can help me? How successful do you think I was, Jeanette, with those words of self-talk?
I'm not sure how the customer would feel about that.
I changed one word in my approach, and that was, who can I help? Who can I help? Give first, get later. If you're out there in public or on a video or in the Zoom room, if your question to yourself, and you're sincere, is, who can I help? I'm hearing people's stories right now. Who can I help? Give first and get later.
Interesting. Interesting.
5, as we're counting down the last 5.
Yeah.
It's really time for you to know who's actually buying. Who is actually buying? It's different. It's a new normal. So borrow those reporter questions. You all know who the reporter questions are. The who, what, where, when, why, and how. Who's actually buying? Who is your potential customer? What you should ask your customers about where their pain is. When are they most likely to buy your product? Where do you need to know? Where do you need to be in the company to talk to the people who can make the decisions? Why are they actually even thinking about buying your product or service? How are you going to deliver that? How is that going to make a difference in the lives of their customers and the lives of their employees? So go back and try to pinpoint the recent buyers' behaviors. Everybody from the beginning of the year, or perhaps even last year, go back and target your market analysis and ask yourself, who were our best buyers? You know, the demographics. Who was the target market? Age, sex, income, location, occupation, level of education, marital status, all that. Go back and pinpoint where the recent buyers' behaviors are. And it goes back to what, years ago, they had asked, you know, where do you begin? Where do you begin the process of targeting? And you always target where your high opportunities are. When Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber, was asked why he robbed banks, do you remember what he said?
No.
That's where the money is. You have to be where the money is. So find it. Next, take inventory here. Everybody's heard of SWOT analysis. You have to do a personal and professional inventory of your own strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses are internal and they're controllable. What are my strengths? Strengthen your strengths, delegate your weaknesses. What are the things that are within my control? And there's tons of forms out there that can give you kind of a SWOT analysis template. And if anybody needs them, feel free to send me an email or something. but you have to do your own inventory. For me, what are your strengths and weaknesses? For your company, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And then the external and uncontrolled factors are opportunities and threats. Where are the opportunities? This is where you're looking around at our new world and trying to figure out where the opportunities are and how many of them can I actually control? Probably not many, but you can address a market if a market exists. SWOT analysis, personal and professional. Now, there is probably nothing more important than having meaningful metrics. You know why people love sports? Because they scoreboard everything. They keep track of everything. In sports, to use a metaphor, it doesn't matter what sport, they keep track of every metric, every key performance indicator. And unlike some of us in business, they're paid based on those numbers directly, whether it's batting average or in basketball, shooting percentage, or in football, tackles. And you as a company should have a top 10 key performance indicators. I'm talking about productivity and performance. Let me explain the difference between them. You should have certain metrics in each of these areas. Sales productivity are the actions that ultimately lead to a sale. Those are things like how many telephone calls are you making? How many emails are you sending out? How many networking events are you attending? You want to measure the actions and the productivity of your salespeople. In fact, I suggest you post a scoreboard in the office, a virtual scoreboard online. Figure out what your metrics should be and keep score. And then the big one, of course, is sales performance, results. Those are the ones that are fun. How many sales did I make? How many customers did I upgrade? How many customers were we able to upsell or cross-sell? So if you're not keeping score, you're missing out. People perform when they're measured. You can't manage what you don't measure. So have meaningful metrics in place.
So Jack, a question that's come in.
Sure.
So as we're creating performance metrics for our salespeople, sometimes, the person asking the question says, sometimes style matters more than just getting the deal done. Can you speak to that comment?
Style, are they talking about the style of the sales professional?
I would think so, yes.
Yeah. This is a bunny trail that could take us miles off the road, but that goes back to understanding the different personalities and styles and how to mirror the personalities and styles of your customers. A lot of it has to do with, for instance, we use a very basic driver, analytical, expressive, and amiable. And the object of the style game is to understand what style you are, number one. Number two, how to recognize the style of the customer or the buyer. And number three, how best to convert your style to mirror their style. Because it's not about us, it's about them. And so if you understand, I came to Houston in 2005 to host the morning show for the Biz Radio Network. Very few people know that, but I was the morning drive time host on the Biz Radio Network. And my live daily talk show was called Where Wall Street Meets Main Street. And we had a small station in Houston, then we opened up in Dallas and some other markets in the state, did that for 5 years. But here's what I learned along the way. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their favorite stations, and everybody has their favorite FM station, which is WII-FM. WII-FM is everybody's favorite FM station. That reminds us, what's in it for me? Your job in sales is to get your buyer to tune in to WIIFM and constantly make your message answer the question, what's in it for me? What's your product in for me? What is our relationship? What's in it for me? WIIFM is everyone's favorite FM station. And then regarding style, my last comment is, although the Biz Radio Network wasn't everybody's favorite AM station, of course it was a small peanut station, everybody's favorite AM station is MMFG AM. MMFG AM, which is make me feel good about myself. If we did one thing every day as sales professionals, that thing would be make the other party feel good about themselves, because it is so easy to get despondent and depressed and sad. What can you do to boost their positivity, to inspire them? Make me feel good about myself. So those are the two things relative to style that I would focus on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're number two. Number two, as the David Letterman countdown continues, find the hippo. Now, you say to yourself, it should be easy to find the hippo, right? They're kind of big animals. Well, the hippo in my example is the highest paid person's opinion. Every one of your customers, no matter how big or small, there is one person who is the highest paid. They typically have ownership, and if you walk into their office, they're typically in the corner office where they have window exposure at both sides. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So look for the hippo, because the highest paid person's opinion is the place where you need to start. You don't stop there. Remember, 5.4 buyers per sale. But just like the namesake animal, I've got bad news for you. The namesake animal has a big mouth and tiny ears. Does that sound familiar for the owners of the companies? The challenge is, once you find the hippo, the one with the big mouth and the tiny ears, if you don't have a relationship and if you don't have a partnership with them, they can crush any proposed deal that's on the table right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not the only ones. They have advisors, they have an executive team, but understand who the hippo is and really align with them and get them to support your proposal.
So, Jack, this is my question. So people spend a lot of energy keeping salespeople from decision makers and from executives in the company. How do we get those 5.4 people that are going to be involved in making the decision? How do we get to them when we have to go through others to get them on our side?
I'm so glad you said that, because just because you asked that question, Jeanette,
yes,
I'm going to throw something in at no extra cost. How does that sound?
I love it.
All right. This is your gift from me. What is the name of the person in the organization that continues to say no and stop you from meeting Mr. and Mrs. Decision Maker? What do we call them?
Roadblock.
Well, that's what they're called, but we have a different name in sales. We call them gatekeepers, right?
Ah, okay.
The gatekeeper's job, if you look at the gatekeeper job description, the first item on their job description is find a way to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Find a way to stop somebody from talking to me on the phone, from visiting me in the office. Their job description says, I am a gatekeeper. My job is to keep people away from the farm. That's why they're called gatekeepers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to say no. Well, if you have that in mind, for instance, in the old days when you walked into an office and you met the person at the front, he or she, who is the gatekeeper, I'll give you an example, you can't walk around, above, through them. My suggestion is you treat them like gold. And you know why? Because you have to change your frame of perspective. So forget about thinking of them as a gatekeeper whose job is to say no. I want you to reframe your thought, Jeanette. Ready?
Okay.
Look at that person as a talent scout. A talent scout. And you know what? You're on an audition. If you are on an audition, what do you have to do to get the part? So it's a different dynamic. I'm about to meet the talent scout of ABC Company. I am on a sales audition. What would you do if you were auditioning for the part of salesperson? First thing you would do is you'd probably try to be friendly to the talent scout, right? Get to know him or her, ask them for their name, shake their hand, ask for their business card. And here's the sad thing. You ask for the business card of the talent scout up front, right? What most often occurs when you ask them for a business card? I'm sorry, I don't have a business card. I'm not important enough in the company to have a business card. Here's a generic business card. If you really want to remember my name, I'll write it down. And this happens more often than not to the talent scout. So what I do is, at that point, I'm on an audition, right? I want to see Mrs. Decision Maker in the corner office. I'll say, Jeanette, are you kidding me? You, of all people, don't have a business card? Why, you see more people coming in the office off the street. You answer more phone calls from employees, vendors, and customers. You touch more people in this organization every day than everyone else combined. And you're telling me you don't have a business card? Well, the first thing I'm going to do when I see Mr. Decision Maker is I'm going to suggest that Jeanette gets business cards because she knows people. She knows people at church. She knows people in her neighborhood. Who knows? She can open the door for new customers. And by the way, Jeanette, I'm not only going to ask for business cards, I'm going to ask for a title change for you because in my, you're not a gatekeeper. You are a director of first impressions. And so I'm going to push for that promotion for you because you're the person, although before you met me, you didn't know Jack. You are now the director of first impressions. And I want everyone to know how important you are to this company. So if you're talking to a talent scout, do you think they're warming up? And you got to be sincere about this. I'm kind of dramatic. I'm dramatizing. Don't you think you have a better chance now of getting a part of an audience with the decision maker if you're treating the gatekeeper, formerly the gatekeeper, now the talent scout, right?
So smart. So smart.
How does that sound?
Oh, love that. Love that. Great advice.
All right, here goes as we're winding down. Oh my gosh, this is probably my favorite message to people as we get to number one on the top 10 sales strategies, because this one, be thankful for what you have, permeates all the other 9, from positivity to focus to encouragement to persistence. Be thankful for what you have. I'm going to do this, and I have to read this because I want to summarize by shrinking our Earth's population, 7 billion plus people, Jeanette, to a total of 100 people. If we took the Earth's population of 7 billion people and created a village of 100, let me tell you what we would have. Here's the ratios. Existing human ratios would remain the same. Out of those 100, 57 would be Asians, 21 Europeans, 8 Africans, 52 would be female, 48 would be male. That should make our single male salespeople excited. 70 would be non-white, 30 would be white, 70 would be non-Christian, 30 would be Christian. 6 people would possess 59% of the entire world's wealth, and all 6 would be from the United States. 80 would live in substandard housing, 70 would be unable to read, 50 would suffer from malnutrition, 1 would be near death, 1 would be near birth. 1, and I said 1, out of the 100 would have a college education, and 1 would own a computer. Whew. So, if you look at the village, the New World Village, if you are on this webinar right now and you have food in the refrigerator, clothes on your back, a roof overhead, and a place to sleep, you're richer than 75% of the people in the world. If you have money in the bank, in your wallet, spare change in a dish someplace, you are among the top 8% of the world's wealthy. If your parents are still alive and still married, I'm blessed to be one of those. Both my parents are 88 years old and married 67 years. You are a rare, blessed person. And finally, if you can read this message on this slide, you've just received a double blessing, because there are over 2 billion people in the world that can't read at all. So, someone once said, what goes around comes around. Work like you don't need the money. Love like you've never been hurt. Dance like nobody's watching. Sting like nobody's listening. And live like it's heaven on earth. How blessed are we?
Man, what a way to wrap up an exciting presentation. That is just really great. So, Jack, one of the questions is that you are so positive and so enthusiastic. And when the participant says, when I reach out to my customers, they're in pretty bad straits. How do I stay positive when people are in bad straits? And you've just shared with us how many people are not in as good a shape as we are.
You know, I've always had a saying, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Relatively speaking, we are so blessed. Even the customers who you are perceiving as unfortunate, the best thing we can do is empathize, not sympathize. Sympathize is the person who says, wow, bummer, you really have some bad luck. Woe is you. And they try to invite you into their pity party, right? Mm-hmm. I'm more of empathetic. I'm trying to empathize and say, oh, you know what? You've been dealt a bad hand, but I know we got a straight in here somewhere. I know we've got a good hand in here somewhere. Let's take a look at the cards again and figure out, because it's the old adage, where is the glass half full? Is the glass half empty? Well, you said I'm a positive person, Jeanette, and that's because I think the glass is half full and I find a way to sell the air, right? That's what we need to do, is we need to help the other person see that the glass is half full, and let's figure out who needs to buy the air.
Wow. So, Jack, is everybody meant to be in sales?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's the age-old question. Are salespeople born or are they made?
Yeah.
And the answer, this is going to surprise you. Everybody knows what an introvert is. Everybody knows what an extrovert is. Mm-hmm. What do you guess is the blend of introvert and extrovert that make the most successful salespeople in the world? Any thoughts?
I think traditional thinking would tell you that extroverts are more likely to be the better salespeople.
Everybody says that. And here's the reality. The best salespeople in the world are the ones that are a combination of introvert and extrovert. Mm-hmm. It's not the extreme extroverts. It's not the extreme introverts. It's the ones right in the middle. Mm-hmm. And actually, so answer your question.
Yeah.
If you reframe the definition of sales, you know, the old French word for sales is sellens, which means service. If you look at yourself as a service provider, and I'm not trying to sell you anything, I'm to help facilitate your buying process, it kind of makes sales sound and look a little less, let's say, sleazy. So not everybody is good at it. Believe me, there are 4 levels of sales competency. I might add this.
Oh.
And each of the people on the webinar should probably ask themselves, what is the blend for me? Well, here they are. Here's the 4, starting from the bottom. Unconscious, incompetent. People in sales who are unconscious, incompetent are the ones that don't know what they're doing, and they don't even know what to do. They don't know what they're doing, and they're not even aware that they don't know what they're doing. They're unconscious, incompetent. It's real hard to get those people to master sales enough to get to the second level. The second of 4 levels is conscious incompetent. I know I'm not very good at sales, so I'm going to have to invest in training. I'm going to have to read books because I now know, I'm consciously aware that I'm not very good at sales. But you know, Jeanette, that is a huge promotion from where you started. You're consciously incompetent. Then, as we move up the hierarchy, next you have people who are conscious competent. Consciously competent means I'm pretty good at sales, but it's still not at the top of my head. I'm going to have to look at my cheat sheet. I'm going to have to look in the dictionary. I'm going to have to look up I'm consciously competent, which means I know what I'm doing, but I'm still going to have to research. I'm still going to have to look at my notes. Finally, for the people in that rarefied air, and there are many on this webinar now, I am sure, they're the ones that are unconscious competent. You can put us anywhere in the world in front of any person, and we will be able to engage a conversation, provided they speak English or we have a translator. And we are comfortable in any situation because we are unconsciously competent. And that is where each of our salespeople should strive as they begin to increase their own personal sales success.
Wow. Jack, Carrie Handley says that you have a great book available.
I'm going to have to pay Carrie her $20. Okay. If you insist on seeing it, Carrie, I owe you one. I happen to have it right next to my computer here, and it's called Life's a Sales Call, How to Succeed at the World's Oldest Profession. And it goes back, and on the cover, you'll notice that there's an apple, and in the background, you're going to not see probably Adam and Eve. But this is my 3rd book. I try to write a book every 5 years. This is the book from recently, 2nd edition. And it gives you all the tactical at the 1 foot level, things you need to know to up your game. Life's a Sales Call, How to Succeed at the World's Oldest Profession. Carrie, I owe you one, man. She's a good one.
Well, that was great of Carrie to help us wrap up. We have spent an exciting hour together, and I really can't thank you enough for taking us through your 10 Jack snacks. No calories, no carbs, man, I'll tell you, that's the best kind of snack. And
I so believe in your mission, Jeanette, that I'm giving you my contact information here. As businesses have questions, if they have follow-up things they want to discuss, feel free to email me, feel free to call me. I mean, the whole Tri-County area, we live, eat, work, and pray. I want to make sure that they have as many answers as they need to open their business and not only succeed, but to thrive. And so feel free to pass on my contact information.
yes, I appreciate that. Just as a reminder, we will have Jack's presentation, which has his contact information posted on the landing page, which I shared with you earlier. And so we hope you'll take advantage of it. Jack, we are ever so thankful, and to our audience that joined us both live and live on Facebook. We hope that you will ask questions and really continue the dialogue. We are trying to be responsive to the things that you need in order to help Katie return to work safely and making sure that our small businesses are cared for in the process. So with that, as my hiking buddy likes to remind me, good day and good health.
Thank you,
Bye
Jeanette.
now.
Thank you
Bye,
for
Jack.
Bye now.